One of the most awaited games of the year, Nick All Star Brawl, has finally released. A few months ago, this game was like a dream. Over a dozen Nick characters in a fighting game environment with a competent developer at the helm. There was so much to look forward to. However, as the game was further to release, a lot of thoughts about the game became more mixed, and people became a bit more skeptical of the game thanks to similar projects like Punch Time Explosion not panning out. However, the game is now out, and I'm really excited to check it out. I've been following it from the very beginning of the rumors about it, and I've been so excited to get my hands on it. But how good is the game actually, and should you buy it? Well, so far I've been loving it, but there's a few gripes with the game that you should probably be aware of before you buy. Let's get into my thoughts. Now, before I begin, I want to thank GameMill for providing a review copy for this review. Although I actually ended up purchasing the game anyway because I didn't expect to get one. Regardless, I'm honored for the opportunity, and that just means I'm reviewing this as someone who did spend the $40 on it. All that said, let's start with the presentation. The first thing you're gonna see is the menus, of course, and they're really cool. They've got a great style to them with high quality renders of the characters. Everything is clear and the options are exactly where you expect them. In-game, however, is a little bit of a mixed bag. The character models look nice, and the characters all have great personality to them in their idols and character select poses. However, the animation's a bit rough. Some attacks feel great, especially ones with faster motions like SpongeBob's Nair, but a lot of slower attacks lack readable movements and have mistimed hitboxes. There's quite a few cases of this, but the most notable are probably Helga's up smash and Lincoln's forward smash, the latter of which I did a whole video on, and lo and behold, the move didn't really change much from pre-release. I will say I haven't felt these issues too much in the gameplay, but that could definitely change with more time in game. Something I have felt is the lack of alt colors. The fact that there's little to distinguish two players of the same character feels really annoying. I hope at least something is done to fix this in the future. On the other hand, though, the stages are beautiful. So many iconic locations have been recreated, from the Technodrome to Glove World. Most of these stages also have cameos of other characters, with some fantastic animations. And the music? Well, this was an aspect many were worried about, myself included, but I really love it. Air Temple, Ghost Zone, Jellyfish Fields, Royalwood Cemetery, and many more great tracks. It was so good I actually lost a bit of footage because I forgot to turn the music off. I was just too busy vibing. I'm not sure if I like it more than Slap City's soundtrack currently, but it's definitely very good. The tracks fit the vibe of the original shows well. While the music is good, the game was not as kind to the sounds. While I've said before I'm not personally too annoyed by the lack of voices, hit sounds are a very important part of the game that are lacking. There's only a sound for hitting a light and hitting a strong. More varied SFX would help a ton. Overall though, while there's some issues that may deter people, I think the game looks really solid. But that's just that, how the game looks. How does it play? Well, the game is very interesting and plays very differently to other games in the genre. The game uses three main attack buttons like you'd expect: light, strong, and special. The light and strong variations have three grounded and aerial variations. There's also a dash attack in the light and strong variant. These have a universal property where you can cancel them into anything on hit, allowing for some crazy combos. Strong attacks are more closer to something like a heavy punch in something like Street Fighter, as there's not really a way to charge them, and they can be faster than you'd expect, but not always. If two strong moves clash, it will stun one of the users based on a rock-paper-scissors system. Down beats side beats up beats down. This feels really weird, and I feel like this would be better if it was just an option you could turn on rather than a mandatory thing, but it does fit the comical tone of the game. You also have three special moves that usually stay the same based on where you've used them. With some exceptions, they are usually pretty simple, without too many fancy gimmicks, but for this kind of game, that's totally fine. Most, but not all characters have a projectile, and those are really strange in this game. Every projectile can be hit back and forth, gaining power on each hit. This turns harmless pokes like SpongeBob's bubble into an absolute killing machine. Also, you can grab and throw projectiles back at opponents like you would another player. Oh yeah, I should probably talk about grabs. Grabs are a universal mechanic that work like DK's cargo throw. You can pick someone up and hold them for a short time based on percent. You can then throw at a set of preset angles that are identical for every character. These can be great combo starters and are unblockable, so look out for chances to use them. In addition to the attacks, jump, and grab, there are 3 other buttons. The strafe button locks your character's direction and prevents them from turning around. It's supposed to be used for retreating aerials, but I haven't used it much. I can definitely see it being useful in niche cases, but I don't expect this to be a huge mechanic. The taunt button does exactly what it sounds like, but also forces you into a tumble state if used in the air. I genuinely don't know if there's actually a use for this, or if it's just there to be funny, but I like it. The most intricate button is shield. Blocking in this game is both stronger and weaker than Smash. There's no guard break meter, but instead getting hit pushes you back. If you hit the ledge, you stagger and are basically a free kill. However, you can push back against this by either perfect guarding or holding towards the attack. Doing both does a parry, which gives you a few extra plus frames. It's not enough to punish with a kill move of your own, but you can likely beat out whatever your opponent's next move is if they don't react. While this does sound broken, there's some big downsides. Most notably, there aren't any out of shield options in the game. You can grab, but that's it. Otherwise, you must wait for the animation of putting the guard down to end. This makes blocking very risky. In the air, this button instead has a different property, air dashes. This allows for 8-way aerial movement to continue combos or create pressure. There is a delay on attacking out of horizontal or upward air dashes, but this does not apply to downward ones, allowing for you to chase well with wave dashes. If you're about to hit the ground, you can also push shield to tech like in most games. However, you cannot roll normally, only as a tech option. Finally, another small change that subtly changes everything is that the game uses digital inputs instead of analog. This means that you can play the game with a D-pad if you like, which is super cool. It's how I've been playing, and it's been really fun. But obviously this does come with some trade-offs. For starters, dash attack is no longer done by quickly moving the stick, and instead is based on gaining enough momentum at first. This change is very awkward at first, but feels fine once you're used to it. Also, there's no fast falling, meaning if you want to get to the ground fast, you need a wave land after your attacks. Now, one thing I especially don't like is that you have to push down and jump to plat drop. Why not let me set it to double tap down? This just feels really awkward. Funnily enough though, these mechanics build something with a bit more of a skill floor than I was initially expecting. It took me a couple hours to feel comfortable with the movement, especially compared to other games, and even now I still feel a little shaky. Don't get me wrong, it's fantastic, the movement feels like butter. However, the air dash specifically opens the door to do a lot of stuff. The crazy combos people have discovered with it already just show how much potential the mechanic has, but it's something you really do have to get the rhythm for. I definitely feel like for the first 2 to 3 hours, everything felt overwhelming, but now that I know the game a bit, everything feels really good. I still have a lot to learn and grow. I'm not sure if this game is super easy for children to learn, but if they're too young, they probably just want to mash anyway, which is why stuff like the rock, paper, scissors mechanic exists. But overall, it's not as hard as something like Melee or Rushdown Revolt, but the game definitely did feel harder at first than Rivals, Brawlhalla, or Smash Ultimate. Now, one thing that I think could alleviate the beginning overwhelmingness would be a proper tutorial level of some kind. Right now, the only tutorial is a how to play manual that doesn't even properly show controller inputs on PC. If we got some challenge mode stuff like, hey, here's how you dash good, that would help a lot. Once you get everything down though, the game feels very aggressive. It's the kind of game where you always want to keep buttons out, which yes is kind of mashing, but it's strategic mashing. It's very fast paced and it keeps me wanting to play more. There are 2 big flaws with the gameplay though. The first is controller setup. This was something I really wasn't expecting to be an issue, since Slap Cities is so robust, but alas, here we are. First, there's no way to change movement on keyboard, meaning you have to play with arrow keys unless you use an external tool. This sucks for keyboard players, and unless you prefer arrow keys, I would be cautious until this issue is resolved. Also, certain buttons cannot be bound. I'd love to put taunt on R3, but I can't since the game doesn't recognize those inputs, or even select for that matter. You also can't change what any of the sticks do. The right stick does strongs on the ground and tilts in the air, which would make sense as an option, but doesn't line up with what I'd expect thanks to the fact that there are, air strongs. I hope in the future there's an option to set tilt stick, strong stick, or mixed stick. You cannot set 2 buttons to the same action. This probably wasn't considered because the game basically uses every available button already, but if the buttons we can use are expanded, that'd be neat. The game is super hostile to GameCube controller players, which, considering a large majority of players will want to use that, is kind of a big deal. Also, I noticed that there's no way to store control layouts, which causes issues when playing with multiple players locally. Allowing us to set names with their own controls and tie them to a controller rather than a player slot would help a ton. The other gameplay problem is, well, let's just say this. Nickelodeon wanted a game out Tuesday, so they got the game out Tuesday. This came at a lot of costs, as there's a lot of things about the game that don't feel ready, most notably, bugs. Now, these are not game ruining, let me make that perfectly clear, but they are frequent enough I've seen a bunch of replicatable stuff and even discovered some weird stuff myself. Some of this does affect gameplay and can provide some unexpected issues. I don't know how to do this, but allegedly infinites are possible off of a missed tech. Also, certain characters have stalls, can fly, a lot of stuff that probably would have just been patched out given enough time. Justified, I have not personally run into anyone abusing these exploits online yet, so keep that in mind. It's likely these will get patched soon, and if they do before the review goes up, I'll update you. As a final note, one thing I've heard talk about is the balance, but other than the bugs, I think the balance is fine for launch. Characters have some really stupid moves, but very few characters feel underwhelming. Everyone has something stupid, and if everyone is broken, nobody is. Now, that's not to say that there aren't currently characters who are just objectively better than others, but I'm sure that balance will even out as time goes on. At launch, balance will always be shaky, that's just a nature of fighting games. Now, let's talk about the content in the game. The biggest things that people probably care about are the characters and stages. There are 20 characters available at launch. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there's a good variety here. Classics like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Ren and Stimpy, mid-2000s picks like Danny Phantom and SpongeBob, and even a few modern reps like Korra and Lincoln Loud. Each character has a home stage, and Ludosity nailed it. A lot of the casual stages are silly enough to spice up the match, but not in a way that feels uncompetitive. The battle at Teeter Totter Gulch has quickly become one of my favorite stages. It's a giant sandbox where nearly any hit is lethal. You can swim in the sand, but any hit will knock you through it, leading to an instant KO and lots of chaos. A lot of the stages are fun like that, and there's a lot of variety for all sizes of playgroups. There's a few misses like whatever's going on in Ren and Stimpy's stage, but the majority is fine. The biggest problem with the stages right now is the competitive stage list. When playing ranked matches, you can pick a competitive stage, and there's only currently 4. Jellyfish Fields, Urkin Armada Invasion, Harmonic Convergence, and Rooftop Rumble. I believe a 5th with a layout similar to Rivals Forest Floor or Small Battlefield was planned, but cut due to time restrictions. I definitely hope we get that stage in the future. Also, I definitely think that the list could be expanded by retooling some stages. The layouts on Ghost Zone, Royalwood Cemetery, Sewer Slam, and The Dump would probably be fine with a few tweaks, so long as the hazards could be turned off. The stages we have now are fine, it's just that more variety is always nice. Speaking of cut content, initially 22 characters were supposed to be released at launch. However, the plan changed to 20 at launch and 2 later due to time constraints. I'm not sure when they'll release, so just know that what you've seen is all you get for now, but there is more planned in the future. But other than that, let's talk modes. The game doesn't go above and beyond, but nothing feels missing per se. The game is split into 4 sections: local, online, arcade, and extras. Locally, you can play time or stock matches as well as sports ball. Sports ball is the premier bonus mode of the game and is based around knocking a ball into the opponent's team's goal with your attacks. It can be played on any stage and doesn't have a default stage. This worried me at first, but I was pleasantly surprised to find that even on larger, weirder stages, it worked great. There's even a variety of balls to choose from. Soccer ball is the default and can only be attacked, not grabbed. Football is the opposite and can only be grabbed, not attacked. Tommy Ball does both and has a mechanic where it rewards bonus points for a far goal without the ball hitting the ground. The Yarn Ball has different physics and does damage when hit or thrown. Lastly, the Plankton Ball is almost too huge for the goal and is very heavy. While there's a lot out of this mode, it has a few issues. Mainly, when the ball goes out of the play area, it despawns and takes a few seconds to come back. This is a necessary part of the mode as it encourages control over the stage to get the ball. However, the ball goes out of the play area way more than it stays in. If there's a horizontal barrier that stopped the ball from going past the goal, but not players, I think that'd help a lot. My other gripe is that the default rules, 15 points in 5 minutes, is way too long, especially compared to the usual speed of the game. I prefer playing 5 points in 3 minutes, but that might just be me. Local also has a training mode, which has a lot of the basic features you'd expect. Hitbox viewer, frame by frame, and damage set and reset options. It's not super in-depth, but offers enough to be helpful. If you're looking for single player, there's an arcade mode. This is a simple gauntlet against a series of opponents. There's some pre-round dialogue, but it seems like there's no real interactions between characters, just clips from the show. I think adding a few preset rival characters with original dialogue would help this feel better. The mode does have an interesting mechanic where you can choose a branching path of your next opponent, so you can fight on your favorite stages or avoid your least favorite stages. There is no boss at the end, but beating it grants you a completion mark on the arcade screen alongside a bunch of extras for your character. It's simple, but it's good enough. Oh yeah, speaking of extras, this is a really cool part of the game. Here you can access a few resources outside of just playing the game. The most interesting of these is a visual move list for every character. This shows you what every character has and also tells you about special properties of moves. Sometimes. Core's move list is missing any mention of her gimmick, and while Powder Toast Man has his weird jab move mentioned, his Nair is just treated like a regular move. If this was touched up and accessible in the training mode, this would be a super useful feature. Right now though, it's still cool. Also included is a gallery. This is where you can view any photos of characters and stages you've unlocked. I don't have too many yet, but there's some cool stuff here that isn't seen elsewhere, including alternate character renders, including some of NPCs, and some cool stage screenshots. There's also a jukebox where you can listen to the main music alongside the stage themes of characters you've beat arcade mode with. The last feature here is replays. You can save replays after a match and watch them here. It's very basic, you can pause and fast forward, but that's about it. It does its job though. However, the mode you probably want to know the most about is the online. The online has 3 main modes. Competitive is the ranked play with only the 4 legal stages. It also has a ranked ladder. Casual is an anything goes mode where all the stages are legal, but it doesn't affect your player ranking. Lastly, you have lobbies. A weird thing is that all the casual and ranked games can be found in lobbies as well, so if you're looking for a particular opponent, you just can. I like this as it promotes longevity of the ranked system even when matchmaking is less popular. In addition, you can also run a different game mode or a 3 to 4 player game here. There's options to play pretty much whatever you want online, which is awesome. The game also has rollback netcode. This helps keep the gameplay fluid and helps bad connections a lot. I will say though that especially day 1, connections have been pretty hit or miss. Some games have had really bad lag, but that could be the fault of opponents. I don't think most of the player base knows what an Ethernet cable is, to be fair, but when it works, it feels flawless. I've been having a lot of fun with it online, and I've been working to learn the game with SpongeBob there, so keep an eye out for that video. Overall though, I think Nick All Star Brawl is a really solid foundation, sabotaged a bit by rushed development. What's here is amazing, and I've been having an absolute blast. However, a lot of the jank might be a little too much for some people. Weird control binding, poor animation and sounds, and plenty of bugs. However, the devs have confirmed that all of this is going to be worked on. I honestly think this is a Power Rangers battle for the grid situation. The game launched in a rough state, but I'm sure with patches and DLC this will become a quintessential platform fighter. However, as of now, I do think it's something to be cautious of. If you love the characters or the genre, you'll probably get a lot out of it if you've been hungering for a new platform fighter like I have. But if you're a bit on the fence, I'll say it's probably best to wait until the dust settles. And that's all I got to say. If you're looking forward to the game, be sure to stick around. I've got a lot of awesome content for the game coming up soon, so I hope to see you then. For now though, I'll take my leave. See you next time!